When you're scouting a field of cotton for thrips, you want to scout the entire field. Don't concentrate just in one area. Don't concentrate in an area that's right next to wheat, for instance, but you'll want to look at the whole field to get an idea what the population is throughout the area. Although you do want to pay particular attention to areas of the field that are close to wheat, because a lot of times there will be a lot of thrips in those areas that you really need to look for. When picking a plant to look for thrips on, you just want to pick these randomly and just simply pull a plant out of the ground. And you'll want to do this very gently, because if you yank the plant up harshly, you'll dislodge some of the adult thrips and they'll fly off. So gently pull the plant and then slowly and gently start turning the leaves over, starting at the bottom and examining the leaves for thrips. When you're examining a cotton plant for thrips, it's important to be very careful with the plant and not to move it around too much or to disturb the thrips that are on it, because the adults will fly off. But when you start looking for the thrips, you'll probably want to start at the bottom and gently turn the leaf over and closely examine the leaf for thrips, both adults and immatures. You'll have to look very closely because the immatures can be extremely small. A lot of times it's a good idea if you can get sunlight to shine it directly on the leaf. You'll pick up the thrips a lot easier. Now, after you've looked at a leaf, you can pinch it off and gently again pinch it off and then move to the next leaf. And again, examine it, pinch it off, and again being very careful not to disturb the thrips so that they fly. And then you just continually move to the leaf. Now, once you get to a leaf that's been damaged either by previous thrips infestation or the wind, you'll have a lot of curling or cupping of the leaves. You'll need to unfold every little cup or curl, because the thrips will like to hide in those types of areas, particularly the immature thrips. And then when you get all the way up to the terminal, you'll want to unfold that terminal leaf, because a lot of times you'll find thrips hiding up in that terminal. And that's basically how you examine a plant for thrips. When you're scouting cotton for thrips, the environmental conditions can play a role in how easy it is to pick up those thrips. Under calm conditions, the adult thrips are more likely to fly off the plant when you pull it out of the ground or when you're examining it. Under windy conditions, they tend to stay put a little bit more, and so that could influence your count somewhat. Also, under sunny conditions, they're more easily seen on the leaves, while under cloudy conditions, sometimes it's difficult to see, particularly the immatures. And the one thing I've noticed as well is if you're wearing sunglasses, it can be quite more difficult to see thrips, particularly again the immatures, because they are so small. When you're examining a damaged plant for thrips, it takes a little bit more care. Plants can be easily damaged by high winds or previous thrips damage, but the thrips will like to hide in these crevices on the leaves. In here, these types of areas, or along the leaf edges, even on the upper sides of leaves when they're curled. You'll have to examine those for thrips as well. Although thrips prefer the underside of leaves, when these types of conditions of damage occur on the plant, they will inhabit those. And like right here, probably doesn't show up very well, but there's an immature thrips in a crevice of a leaf here. Distinguishing adult and immature thrips can be rather difficult. The female adult thrips tend to be fairly large for thrips, and they tend to be kind of a amber color. Those are easily distinguishable from the immatures, whereas a lot of the males tend to be quite smaller than the females, tend to be a little bit lighter in color, and those are often confused with the immature thrips. Immature thrips tend to be either a light yellow color or almost a white color, and they can be extremely small, in which case use of a hand lens can help a lot as far as distinguishing those. Now, when you're looking for adults and immature thrips, the adults tend to move around a little bit more. They tend to be more active than the immatures and a little faster. Of course, they have wings, and if disturbed, they will take flight. And if you're having troubles distinguishing an adult from an immature, a simple probe with your pencil will make an adult take flight, whereas the immature will stay put. This cotton is at the cotyledon stage. You can see there's no true leaf. And at this point, the threshold would be 1 thrips per plant. This cotton plant is at the 1 true leaf stage. You can see the cotyledons, the true leaf, a developing second leaf, and the threshold is 1 thrips per true leaf at this point, so the threshold on this plant would be 1 thrips per plant. This plant is at the 4 true leaf stage, so there's 4 true leaves here, and again the 2 cotyledons. The threshold for thrips is 1 thrips per true leaf, so it would be 4 thrips per plant in this case. Now this plant is quite a bit further along developmental wise. You can see it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 true leaves on it. Now once a cotton plant has 5 to 7 true leaves, it's generally no longer considered susceptible to economic damage from thrips. The potential for thrips damage can be greatly influenced by temperature. Under cool conditions, thrips can cause a lot more injury to cotton than if that same cotton plant was grown under warm conditions. We have found that under conditions where nighttime temperatures are in the mid to upper 50s and daytime temperatures are below 80, that the threshold may need to be adjusted down to maybe even perhaps a half a thrips per plant on 1 leaf cotton. On the other hand, when temperatures are warm, say daytime temperatures in the 90s or even 100, the threshold can even be adjusted upwards to several thrips per plant that's 1 leaf stage growth. If you're growing cotton in an area that historically has heavy thrips pressure, and particularly if you're in an area that is subject to cool early season conditions, you may want to consider using a preventive thrips treatment. And this could be in the form of an in-furrow insecticide, something like Timic, or a seed treatment, which there's a number of, including products like Cruiser, Eris, and Avicta. And all those products can provide good thrips control early on. Now, your Timic will typically, at 3.5 to 5 pounds, will typically provide about 30 days of good thrips control, whereas your seed treatments tend to be a little bit less. They'll tend to provide about 21 to 24 days of thrips control, after which case you'll want to scout your cotton closely because you can still get damage once these products begin to play out. Now don't wait for the damage to occur, because once the damage is there, you've already been hurt. You want to scout this cotton that's had these preventive treatments on it and really watch for the immatures. Don't spray based on adults, because a lot of times they'll be migrating into the field, but they actually won't colonize. But once you start to see the immature thrips begin to colonize the plants, that should trigger a follow-up application of a foliar insecticide if you're at threshold. If you're treating thrips with a foliar insecticide, remember that timing is everything. You don't want to wait for damage to occur before you put on these insecticides. You want to apply them once your thrips reach your threshold. Most of the products that are commonly used for thrips management on the Texas High Plains include products like orthene or acephate, dimethylate, and bidrin. These 3 products are all fairly short-lived, and you shouldn't expect to get more than 5 days control out of any of these products.